What's up guys, and welcome to today's video. It is in the late afternoon on Wednesday and I'm headed to pick up Sean and we are going to drive to Nashville because tonight I am racing my first ever road crit. Actually, it's my first ever road race and it's going to be a crit, a criterium race. Really excited. Talk more about that in just a minute, but I need to go get Sean because he's going to help me out with recording tonight while I do the race. Ready to do the first crit race ever. I have two goals. Number one goal is don't get dropped. Number two goal is don't crash.
One to go.
This is my first road race, my first crit, first everything on a road bike right now. And the way this is going to work is that I'm going to race against all women, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm actually a Cat 4/5 on the road because, like I said, I've never raced on the road before. And we're all going to race together in a group and we race for 30 minutes. It's going to be really interesting. It's here on this motor speedway and I have no clue currently what the layout of the course is. Sean just went up to try to figure it out a little bit for me. I'm trying to figure out how to pin this number on because I'm not used to having to do this. So it's kind of hilarious. I hope you guys are enjoying this video so far. If you do, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let's get into the commentary for my first crit race ever. First things first, the girl directly in front of me in the black, that's Dina. Shout out to her because I know her through mountain bike racing. She's also a mountain biker and she gave me some tips and advice coming into this race and that definitely made me feel a little bit more comfortable. And most of these girls I don't really know. There's a handful of them I do know through mountain bike racing, but most of them I don't know. So I really didn't know what to expect coming into this race. One thing is that the course is set up on a speedway at a fairground and they can slightly change the course from race to race. The layout of this race was basically a kidney bean, which is one of the easier routes. There's no crazy hard turns, which was really good for me with it being my first time. But what I did notice immediately, and I had to kind of struggle with this the first couple laps, is that I did not do so well in the cornering. As you can kind of see, like I didn't really get to pre-ride the course. I rode like one really easy lap, but not at speed. So I didn't really get to see it. So I didn't really know what to expect. So the first couple laps of this race, I'm really just trying to get used to doing the corners and finding the lines. Because if you look at this road, it's not super smooth. There's a lot of cracks in it. There's a big crack at the end through one of those corners. So just kind of learn my lines, figuring out how to be fast and smooth, and just really getting comfortable carrying my speed with a group around me like this. And I don't think I ever really got to the point in this race where I was super comfortable being like next to somebody through the corners, mostly like because of myself, like trusting myself to hold my line. That's obviously something that will come with more experience and practice. So the first couple laps, I was pretty much at the back of the pack. I knew that like I was trying to stay with Dina and she was kind of moving up right here. And so, you know, I know from racing, I know a lot of race tactics, even though I've never done one before. I know that you really want to be at the front. Now this back section, the straightaway that we're coming through at the end right here, there was a pretty massive headwind through this section. So what ended up happening was after the first couple laps, the pace slowed down a bit and it slowed down even more through that section. So as I was kind of getting a little bit dropped or distanced on some of these turns, I was able to catch back onto the group. And there's a couple of times I made mistakes where I just wasn't as smooth through the corners and had to do a little bit of an effort to get back on, kind of like right here, but I was able to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and speed the race up here. I'm going to show you guys the entire race. With it being a crit and it being a circuit, it's kind of interesting to re-watch the footage in high speed you can really see some of my poor line choices and how I kind of yo-yo off the back a lot. Like I said, that's definitely something to work on. Essentially, I was just trying to get more comfortable, focus on taking the best lines and trying to stay in the group, but not really stay at the front of the group. If you notice, a lot of the times I'm not taking the same line as the other riders. And on the back section with the headwind, I wasn't really in the line a lot of times. And so I was taking a little bit of wind there, and it was just a matter of I wasn't like getting on the wheels. So I definitely, saw a few places where I could improve. And obviously I'm going to plan on working on that. But my main thing is just trying to make better line choices going forward. And part of that was just my comfort level with the other riders. And like I said, it was with myself. So what is interesting is that we were slowing down on that backside with the headwind, and I had an issue where I was kind of getting dropped. And then when we came around through here, this is at 6 laps to go. I did not know that this was 6 laps to go, but I knew about the time. That was the only thing I was looking at on my Garmin was the time. And these two girls, there's already two girls up front off the front, and then these two other girls went off the front. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go with them and we'll bridge up to the front group. So I put a little bit of an effort in there to catch onto their wheel. So as I catch up here, they're kind of slowing down, and you can see the other riders right up in front of us. These are that rider on the right, I believe, was lapped. I'm not really sure. I don't know how that works, but so they kind of slowed down, and then we kind of sped up a little bit. But I was interested in actually catching up to the lead group. Like, I didn't really just want to sit here in this group. I wanted to keep progressing. As you can see, the group is kind of behind me a little bit. So I kind of, they had kind of eased up. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to put the pressure back on the pedals and get through this section here. And I just try to take this corner as smooth as possible, and we're going to be coming into that back section with the headwind, and I felt like my speed through there had been really good, and most other people were slowing down because of the headwind. So I was thinking maybe I could make some progress on the girls up ahead, and I could kind of see my shadow on the ground, and so I could kind of tell that the girls behind me, they weren't really on my wheel at that time, but they were there, and they actually did bridge up with me. I don't know if they were directly on my wheel, but I was kind of hoping they would come around and help me catch them a little bit, but they didn't. And one of the girls told me later that she was pretty much already on her limit, and so she couldn't really help me. She wanted to, but she couldn't really help me. So I was just I felt good right here, even though my legs were tired just because it had been such a hard effort. But I knew I could keep going, and I was obviously catching up on them, so I didn't want to let off too much. I wanted to keep the pressure on, and I think they slowed down just a little bit through these corners because I started to really make up the gap right here. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward it for just a little bit. So you can tell I've just kept the power pretty constant up to the point where we've now bridged up to them. And they're kind of, like I said, they're kind of letting off, looking back. As you can see, the girl up front doesn't really seem like she's putting the pressure on, and she kind of goes outside. And they let me around, and I'm thinking in my head, well, this ain't good. I don't want to be on the front anymore. So I actually was taking a sip of water right here because I was trying to slow up and let them around. Well, what happened is they called the $50 preem lap, and everybody really wanted that one because $50 is a pretty good prize money for a single lap. So I knew that they were going to attack me, and I was pretty spent after doing like that 2-lap effort of trying to bridge up, and I knew it was a matter of time that they were just going to come around me on this point. But I was just kind of going, and I wasn't thinking about doing a really hard effort right here, though the watts are still pretty high. I was kind of thinking more of they were going to attack me, and I was just going to jump on the back. I really needed some recovery because at this point we're getting really close to the end, and I had decided already the way that the $50 preem landed, it was not going to be good for me to try to get it with that 2-lap effort, and I'd be better to try to get some recovery for the end. So as you can see, they put a little dig in there, and I just kind of sailed to the back of the group and got on the last wheel here and just rolled in with them. Now, I'm hurting right here. I'm pretty spent and I'm ready for some recovery. So I'm glad to be back here, but I'm letting up a little bit too easy and they're starting to gap me. And, you know, right here, I remember thinking, I just did all this work to get up here and I'm hurting, but I'm not hurting enough to just let them take off and go. So I'm, you know, it's kind of like sirens are alerting. I'm like, all right, you need to get back on the wheel here. Let's go. So I put in a little effort and I catch back into this lead group here. Now, as you can see, there's a girl off the front. Pretty much she's going for that $50 preem and our group just kind of let her go. I think the majority of our group is somewhat spent possibly because there was no response to her. And I felt like she was riding really aggressive the most of the race and she was attacking into those corners. And I just didn't have the ability to do anything to respond to that in those corners. And so I felt like she was playing it really smart. Like, if you're good in the corners, that's a really great tactic because there's not really much else to do here to exploit anyone's weaknesses besides just having a higher power output. So she's off the front and I'm kind of, you know, sitting at the back of this group recovering. They're kind of, you know, see, here they are putting in a little bit of a dig. And I'm thinking to myself, like, let's go. I'm at the back. I'm going. If they're hurting, I'm just going to go all out, see if I can catch the girl up front. And I'm pretty sure, again, they just jumped on my wheel or pretty close to it. And they came with me because we were all really close together at the finish line here. But here we are. This is the last lap. This is the end of the last lap. She's in first right up there. I'm trying to catch her, doing my very best. But I can already tell, like right here, I'm already thinking like the gap's too big coming into these corners to my weakness here. So I've kind of already, you know, realized like I'm not going to catch her through these corners in this little stretch. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I took this really wide and I shouldn't have done that. But there is a girl right beside me sprinting. I mean, we were less than half a bike length apart. So it was really cool to get like a sprint finish for second place there. I thought that was super awesome. And that's going to be it for the commentary. I'll see you in the video. That was cool, though.
Well, awesome job.
Thank you. Hi. We're coming back.
I got blood on my hands. Do you understand? I'm a wanted man.
Look happy.
We got in there.
A bottle, CO2, and a patch kit. This is a Purist bottle, though. I love Purist bottles.
They're good bottles.
I